Yeah, I had to restart my computer just to get the audio. You think you can get it now? All right. No, why? Why? You should be in the picture. I was looking forward to meeting you just as much as Mike. It's not public. It's just being seen by like one Facebook group. So just so you know. But I had to get prettied up too. So there you are. Okay, cool. Here you go.
Oh wow, it's bizarre. You guys are both on the phone together.
Yeah, we were.
It's like the Jetsons.
Hey
man.
Hey man, how you doing?
Good.
Awesome.
I was tickled to see you leave UFOs in a comment.
Yeah, I watched. So obviously that stuff is it's entertaining and it's weird enough that I'm interested in it. Like there was a mermaid documentary, and I watched that, and I thought that was fun.
Yeah, but that was like fake news.
Yeah, do you know the one I'm talking about?
I do. They had like the best ratings I think Discovery had in a couple years for a TV show.
Yeah.
My friend thought it was real. He's like, mermaids are real. Like, did you see that documentary? I go, man, it's not a documentary. Yeah, but it is.
So, I mean, this thing, I was watching it, the what's it called? Stan Romanek.
Oh, what an awesome movie.
So the Stan Romanek documentary, I was wondering if it was is it called a mockumentary when it's fiction, but it's like, it's fiction and reality? I was wondering if it was fiction and reality.
That's real, man.
But it's supposedly completely real. It's not dramatized at all, right?
It's like Billy Myers. Billy Myers case, the one-armed Switzerland farmer that claimed he was in cahoots with the Plagiarians.
I just don't trust people with one arm, dude. I mean, just straight up. What happened to him?
He had a lot of people trying to discredit him, but he's also got a lot of people that supported him. He claims to have had ongoing contact with a race of blonde-haired aliens that he called the Plagiarians that, want world peace and warn us of impending ecological disaster if we continue down the same path. I mean, Okay,
so the Nordics.
Yeah, Nordic, exactly.
It's the same thing, right? He was calling them one thing, but they're called the Nordics, right?
He called this specific race the Plagiarians. Nordic, if I understand it correctly, applies to like a genre, to like a case. Like you could have other Nordic aliens that might not be Plagiarians. Maybe they come from some other star system or dimension.
Oh, okay, I see. Like a community, a specific community. Okay.
Because you could have humans that are Nordics, right?
Sure.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
Okay.
Like people might call you a Nordic.
Okay. No, I'm short, skinny, dark eyes. So I wish that I was as beautiful as those people.
As the alien people.
Yeah. So,
I don't really have anything to say. I mean, I can't say one way or the other whether the Plagiarians are real because I've never seen Plagiarians or Nordic alien. The aliens I've had interaction with are just very strange. So
how open are you about that? What you've told me privately, how open are you about that?
I'm pretty open about it now. I didn't used to be. I was kind of in a state of denial.
Okay.
Like, this is really bizarre. See, I feel bad for some of the people that I more or less, was in the fight with.
Yeah, man, you're mean.
People think I'm fighting with you.
You have a hard right hook, man. You're a mean guy sometimes.
I'm trying to be a nicer person. I'm working on
it. No, honestly, I actually don't feel that way. Actually, I don't think you're mean. Because I feel like I kind of get you. I've wondered before if I am slightly autistic. I've wondered that a lot, actually. I've actually wondered if I have.
Definitely got the ADD down pat.
I have the ADD.
Oh, there's a squirrel.
It's actually called, I don't call it ADD, I call it ADOS. Attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. That's
yeah. Well, it's specific attention. So you probably have like a laser-like intensity to things you're interested in, and not so much other things.
So I actually don't think it's a disorder. Whatever this attention deficit disorder, I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's a personality type, and I feel like it's doing children a great disservice to tell them that they have a disorder and then push meds.
Yeah.
And my life has kind of been a train wreck from a pharmaceutical point of view, because people have pushed meds on me since I was a small child. And the fact is that our education system is broken, not our children, you know? And so I'm very passionate about public education reform. And, you know, I was always put in the slow class with the lowest performing kids, cognitively slow or whatever. And I was never cognitively slow. In fact,
I don't think anybody today would say that you're slow, but I get what you're saying. Rather than say that somebody's a disorder, just say that people are different. There's a spectrum of people, and we all have certain attributes and talents, and not everybody does everything the best, right? I mean, certain people are going to be good at some things, and other people will be better at something else.
I totally agree. You know, I totally agree. And I didn't realize that I wasn't dumb. I thought I was dumb my whole life. I thought I was a dumb kid, because I always had these crazy questions, and I always thought about deeper things. And I always felt like everything that they talked about in school was so superficial and so obvious and easy. And I always wondered about all these deeper things. And everybody said I think too much, and that's ridiculous. And it's always, so I always thought I was dumb. And then when I got to college, I realized I became a tutor in a lot of my classes because kids couldn't get simple concepts. And I realized, and I even became a tutor in most of my classes. And I was failing the classes I was tutoring. The kids I was tutoring was getting A's. They were getting A's. And I started noticing that the kids that I had been tutoring were like graduating and stuff. And I wasn't, it took me a lot longer, because it's the hoops that you jump through with education that I was never good at. So turning things in on time, putting my name on the right side of the paper in the header margin, you know.
I hate that crap.
Yeah, like you have to turn in a 5-page paper, not a 4.5-page paper, or you lose 50 points. You know, just all the politics and the hoops of school. That's what I haven't been good at. But when it comes to
thank God there's no politics in Bigfoot.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Thank Buddha for that.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I'm being sarcastic in that there is a lot of politics. Your attributes seem to serve you really well in researching and, you know, uncovering information and finding stuff that people find fascinating.
Well, as do yours. And I think that you and I both have the ability to hyper focus. And we hyper focus to the point where we don't care. We don't give a damn what people think. We offend people. We don't. Sometimes we have no filter. That's especially true with me. And it's like we're so focused on understanding a specific topic. We just really jump into these things and we shut everything else off. And so people are like, they ask me, why are you willing to be so open publicly? And I'm like thinking to myself, why are you not willing? You know?
Well, like, you can get ridiculed.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a reason to keep this to yourself for some people. I understand it. I mean,
yeah, that's right. That's right. And I guess those are things that I just don't think about.
But you've been forged by fire, Rio.
Yeah, a little bit.
Been through the fire.
Yeah. It's like,
right.
Yeah. I mean, you've had your stuff too. I mean, both of us have been kind of.
Yeah. A lot of it to mine was self-inflicted. I like I said, I'm trying to be. See, I used to go after the woo people.
Yeah.
I used to go after kind of like I thought that was ridiculous. Like I used the woo as a litmus test to invalidate something. If somebody was coming through and said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, Bigfoot had the salmon in his hand and then he stepped into the UFO," I'm like, "Well, they're wacko."
Yeah.
I could buy him having the salmon. Oh, he's got the salmon and he's walking. But when they got to the UFO, that's when I'd shut them down and I'd say, "Well, they're full of crap." And now I realize that it was probably the opposite, that those people probably are legitimate. Well, I mean, are you going to make up something that crazy? Who's going to get more ridicule? The person that sees Bigfoot with the salmon get on the UFO, or the Bigfoot that takes the salmon and runs into the woods?
Exactly.
Family. And
Well,
go
here's
back to his cave.
I thought that you had UFO stuff early on. Why would you doubt the UFO stuff?
Well, see, this is why I'm probably particularly guilty, and people should have a special hatred deserved for me because I was privy to those things, right? Like, that's the state of denial I was in. Like, I had experiences with these aliens and UFOs and everything that goes with that, and the whole, like, that my family wouldn't accept it, and even I would even have people that I would take with me that would see UFOs that would then be in a state of denial. And so I got so fed up with it that I thought, oh, Bigfoot. Like, Bigfoot was even part of the reason I went and got my degree in biology. I thought I want to have something to say about this because I know about the forest and the woods, and I thought I'm gonna take care of this puzzle, no problem.
You're going to eradicate the Bigfoot myth?
I was going to solve it. That's how arrogant I was. I thought I'll do that. But what I wanted to do is compartmentalize. I wanted to not have anything to do with the UFOs. I thought Bigfoot and UFOs were completely separate subjects.
Mm-hmm.
I was bound and determined to keep them separate.
So what convinced you that that Bigfoot and UFOs absolutely are married?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, Lady K is much quicker at grasping truths than I am. Like, I was really clinging to the fact I don't want the two of them to be together. Okay. And so I'm seeing these things. My first experience with the woo was going out with Dallas Gilbert and Wayne Burton, Dallas and Wayne, the Bigfoot hunters from Ohio. Dallas recently died, like, I don't know, several months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. I thought those guys were wacko, Juju Bean, Psychic Pony, Woo Train off the cliff. And I got down there because I thought, well, this will make for an entertaining video. But then I discover they're calling Bigfoots in. Like, these creatures are coming right in. They had a whoop. There was a stick that broke. The typical stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vocalizations all night long. Hey! Sorry, my dogs are talking to each other. So that was the first case, but I even denied that. So it took several years of really strange stuff before I finally, I didn't even put the two of them together when we were looking for Bigfoots and seeing UFOs. I was still saying, oh, well, that's a separate phenomenon. Wow, what a coincidence. It's occurring right here where we're here in Tree Knox.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want the two of them to be together.
So, let's see. I have a lot of things to say. So, I don't think.
Yeah, Rio. Have you seen a UFO yet?
I wanted to talk to you.
Experience the woo. Have you?
I wanted to talk to you about a potential UFO thing. I think I may have seen a UFO when I was, like 13 or 14, on two different occasions, and then recently I saw some funky looking satellites. At night. You watch the sky at night on a really clear night. I mean, I see the sky really nicely because I go out into remote areas.
Plus, you're at elevation too. I bet that helps.
Yeah, that's right.
Dry conditions.
I think there's 7,000 satellites in space, and something like 6,000. It's some small number that's operational. Like only 1,000 are operational, or something like that. Anyway, I was watching a thing on this, and they went over the statistics. So there's a lot of satellites zip by. But I saw some interesting ones, so I'll get to that. Remind me of that. But
sorry, distracting you, man.
I definitely am not. Here's the thing with aliens. I think that there's some really good evidence for aliens. I think it's a genuine phenomenon. I don't see any logical reason to deny that there are beings, visitors that have visited. I think that's ridiculous. It's kind of like saying we've discovered everything in the ocean. Why on earth would you say aliens don't exist? That's so.
But the thing is that the aliens are kind of a lot like Bigfoot. We still don't have a body. This Lady K saw this in our bedroom. This guy.
Why would we have a body of something that is obviously so much more advanced than us that it can travel through space-time light years? I mean, the closest planet, freak, I forgot, that might have life is in the Betelgeuse galaxy. I'm forgetting. Everything's getting jumbled, but it's like we're barely finding planets that may contain life, and we're not traveling anywhere. Just stupid telescopes, and they are supposedly traveling here with vehicles that can go through folds in space and time or whatever. Why would we have their body? No, they're not. We're not going to have their body. They're going to have.
Okay, I love this explanation. I agree with you 100%. Now apply that same rationale to Bigfoot. Why do we not have a Bigfoot body? If Bigfoot is doing these things, and maybe he's not traveling to other planets, but we have a lot of reports of him doing really bizarre. You even hint at it. I know you're firmly based in the physical model, right, of Bigfoot. And I'm not trying to mention anything different, but I can.
How you define physical, because I do believe that there are quite a few abilities that they display. I mean, I can't really deny at this point. I can't really deny it. You know,
you did a video not too long ago that got me in some trouble because I did like a response to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, people thought I was being a jackass. I guess you're hating on Rio, you hater.
No,
I even have one guy that makes videos about me every time I do a video about you. It's like a cascade. But I mean, a lot of people share your viewpoint. Like that viewpoint's very popular, that it's just a physical creature and that we shouldn't be going, making these outlandish claims. It's not from another dimension. And you're absolutely right. When people say that, what the hell do they mean? What is another dimension? Like they throw out these things. I said like candy from a parade float, these terms as if they mean something.
Yeah. That's the thing is like, if you're going to say anything about another dimension, it's like, okay, we have no measuring stick whatsoever. Right. We've our observational science, through observational science, we can detect, or we can assume that there is most likely other dimensions, that there's most likely a multiverse. In fact, it seems kind of undeniable that there's a multiverse.
Well, mathematical models pretty much, and you talked about string theory. String theory, it has to have multiple dimensions, because the idea behind string theory is that you've got these things they call branes, which are, they've only got one dimension, I guess, but they're interacting with each other. And so we're the manifestation of them interacting, kind of like if you were to take a piece of paper and then take a ball and run that ball, if you could, through the paper. If you were a flat world person, all you'd see is a line getting bigger and smaller. You would not be able to see the 3D representation of that ball. So if you had something like that happening in our environment, it could perhaps, create 4 dimensions, right? I think that's kind of what they're saying with that. But you're right. We don't have any examples of another dimension.
So, yeah. And so like I was talking to Mike Patterson, a good friend of mine, a really good friend of mine.
Good photographer too. Did you see those pictures he took? Awesome, huh?
Where were they, in the inner circle or where?
No, I don't know. I think he posted on his page, but him and his girlfriend there, Faye, were taking pictures of like waterfalls, beautiful stuff.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
awesome. I really respect him. I've always had a feeling that that whatever he was experiencing and posting online was genuine.
I thought he was full of crap.
Yeah, you thought he was full of crap. That's right.
Yeah.
I just got the feeling that there was something about that was very genuine. And I was, back then, I didn't even really believe in Bigfoot that much. I was a big Sasquatch Chronicles fan, big fan of Wes Germer, back when Will Jevening and stuff were on the show. And I was totally like, if this thing exists, it's nothing but a North American great ape that's pretty intelligent and evasive.
I used to think the same thing.
And so it was cognitive dissonance, because I felt that Mike Patterson was being genuine, but then I couldn't fit any of his experiences into the model that I believed in. And I wasn't willing to believe or even accept the possibility, which is stupid, the possibility of anything beyond. So, but now that I have more experience, and now that I understand, yes, these creatures are definitely flesh and blood creatures, but there's significant abilities and behaviors that they display which are amazing and
they are,
and incredible. And so and I've experienced a lot of the stuff that Mike Patterson has experienced. I haven't experienced orbs or marbles appearing and disappearing. I haven't seen anything appear. I haven't seen anything appear out of thin air, but I have had things gifted to me like right behind my back, and I turn around. Well, I shouldn't say right behind my back, like down a trail that I just walked down like 2 minutes ago. That's in the middle of the field, so you see a Sasquatch, and you turn around, and there's a really cool thing, a gift sitting there. I've had that type of deal. Things gifted inside of a locked car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, stuff like that. So it's to the point where I know that there's something. I'm not going to say, so anyway, back to the point. I was talking to Mike Patterson, and I said, well, how do you know that they're going into different dimensions? I mean, I said on your end, look, you leave your camera out and there's these pictures that show up or whatever. You're seeing marbles materialize. You're seeing, whatever other Harry Potter stuff is going on. But I was like, you don't know that they're going into a different dimension. And he's like, yeah, that's fair. He's like, I just say different dimension because, and I can't remember what he said, but I think he's a very fair-minded guy. So the different dimension thing, like, I think it's not even worth saying, because it's like, until we have some sort of conclusive evidence that they're doing something that requires another dimension, then nobody has any evidence whatsoever of another dimension. What's that experiment where the two particles were changing at the same time, even though they were separated?
The two-slit experiment.
Okay, explain that.
Oh, no, you're talking about entanglement.
I totally forget everything that I.
The entanglement of the two-split experiment that you're talking about.
What scientists were changing one particle that they split up, and the other one was changing.
Entanglement. They did that in Switzerland.
Okay.
They did that in Switzerland, I think. Or they had one in Switzerland and one a long ways away. And when they jingled one, or they made it, they activated, gave it some energy. The other one responded, and it responded faster than light could have traveled that distance.
Faster than light could have traveled. Faster than anything could have traveled. It was absolutely simultaneous.
Right.
And it was reacting in this same exact way that the one that they had. So they were flipping it, or whatever they were doing. They're flipping this particle, and the other one would flip.
It's as if there was no distance between those particles. They didn't recognize that they'd been separated.
As if it was the same particle still. Right. And so that's very, very strong evidence to suggest that those particles are indeed connected. Where? In some other dimension. So there's good evidence that there is multiverse.
Or that distance is an illusion.
Sure, space-time is something that we are perceiving in this dimension and may not be representative of space-time elsewhere.
Oh, I'm totally on board this, because this is what I wrote. I don't know if you read it or not. I wrote a thing on, is Bigfoot wavy? And I was comparing the things that people report about Bigfoot to how, when people started studying the quantum realm, they discovered how particles behave like waves. They can be in two places at one time, and like the electron tunneling microscope is based on the principle that electrons can escape this energy well without using the energy that they need to escape it, by actually tunneling through it. That's not like something that physicists pulled out of their butt. They did observations in the natural environment, and they used that phenomenon, even though they didn't understand it, to construct devices which we now use to map things that are very small.
That's right. Functional devices.
Yes.
So
they're not just making up something, but they've actually said, okay, this is what's happening, and we can apply this, even though we don't know how the electron's doing this.
That's right. So, and that's what I call predictive science. And that's the science that I love, predictive science, I guess.
Oh, me too.
So when you can actually observe nature and make a prediction, I know that you're not full of BS. Okay? When
My prediction is no one's going to bring in a Bigfoot body.
What?
I said my prediction is no one's going to bring in a Bigfoot body.
You know what, though?
Ever.
Hold on. We need to talk about that after we finish this discussion, because I feel that there probably are Bigfoot bodies. But anyway, let me finish what I was going to say real quick. So
there might be.
If you can predict, if you're saying that you're observing something real, or you have some sort of formula, or you're giving people some sort of advice about these creatures.
Oh, I see where you're headed with this.
Yet you cannot make any functional prediction whatsoever that is measurable or that applies in the field. I just think you're full of crap. And let me give you an example. I'll give you an example. If I'm going to tell the world that there's this giant reveal coming that's going to change all of humanity and all of consciousness and all of everything, it's going to be like the biggest thing ever. Oh my gosh. Yet I can't mention a single thing that it's actually going to change. Or
well, actually, this hypothetical person that we're talking about, he did have a prediction. His prediction was that after they did the thing that they did, that no one would ever see a Bigfoot again, because they've all migrated from the dying planet and they're now living safely harbored inside of trees. So we shouldn't be seeing any more Bigfoots.
Really? That was a prediction? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's, in the hypothetical book by the hypothetical person that you may or may not be talking about, but
yeah, that's interesting. That really was a prediction, Mike?
That was a prediction that I may have personally heard. Yeah, may have been told to me, possibly.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like, if you can't make predictive science is so beautiful, because how did we find Mercury? We found Mercury through predicting what planets behaved like.
Oh, so, based on the gravity pull, right?
Yeah. Yes. And we didn't. So basically, nobody had to go and see Mercury first. We predicted that there would be a planet nearer to the sun, and we were right. And it's the same way we discovered Neptune and Venus, I believe, or maybe just one of them. We predicted that there would be another planet out there because of the gravity and because of different behavior, because the interesting behaviors with the revolution, or the revolutions of planets. We predicted that there would be a planet, and we looked out into space in the place that we thought it would be, and it was there. So that's called predictive science, and it's like the same with Bigfoot or anything. If you're just going to spout off a bunch of crap that you cannot back up with not even evidence and not even predictions, so you can't produce evidence or predictions or any viable cohesive thing, I just think it's not even worth my time. And so the funny thing is that so many people in the Bigfoot community have decided for some reason that science is the enemy. They've decided that because science is wrong on Bigfoot, because science, you and I know that there are horrible cultures in the scientific community.
Oh, of course.
The politics and
what do you have that's better? We don't have anything that's better other than science. Like, it's flawed, it's not perfect, but it's the best we got.
That's right. I
love science. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, if anything's going to crack this nut, there'll be the application of actual science. Now, does that mean I don't think that certain professors and doctors might not be on the payroll of government agencies? Of course that they might be, right? Yeah. I mean, there is, in my mind, this may seem kind of nutty, but in my mind, there are forces, there are powers that do not want the truth of what Sasquatch is to get out to the masses. And so they've got this thing set up that ridicules us. It ridicules more. The closer you get to the truth, the more ridicule you're gonna see. The dumb ape models, they just get a little bit of ridicule. When you start saying that Bigfoot's stepping on the UFO, that's when you notch it up a level.
You think, yeah. Huh. A lot of people think that there are disturbers of the Bigfoot community that are actual shills, I guess.
Oh, I think so too.
You think so?
Some people think I'm one of them.
Yeah,
I've been accused of being a government paid agent, being part of some Kabbalah.
Cabal, yeah. Cabal, yeah.
I'm not, because I tell you what, if I'm being paid by the government, they're extremely late with those paychecks, because I haven't seen any of them. So,
well, we both know
I'm not being compensated.
We both know that you're not a government secret agent. All right. So we can let that subject rest.
Maybe you are. People think you are too, Rio.
Oh yes, they do, definitely.
Yeah, that's another one of the rumors, that you're a government agent.
Well, I'm not going to confirm or deny that I'm a government agent. But anyway, next
This is
subject.
exactly what a government agent would say.
So, okay, here's a question. Why do you think that the government would be interested in covering this up?
Well, I mean, people ask, like, what benefits a person from putting forth a hoax or from lying about something? And truth is power. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So if a few people, select people, have the truth, and you're keeping a whole bunch of other people that don't have the truth, you've got power over them. That's really the bottom line. Like, what are the nitty-gritty details? I mean, we could theorize on that, but the bottom line is there's a truth out there. Look, it didn't take you long to discover it, right? You went into the forest and you're like, holy crap.
It was easy.
I came upon the same thing. I'm thinking, oh, this is, maybe there's a Yeti, right, in Tibet, or maybe there's a Sasquatch in the ass end of Washington State way off in the woods. But, no way in hell these things are in Ohio. And no, they're not everywhere.
Yeah.
People are hallucinating, right? They're not getting on UFOs, and they're not connected to these things. I thought all of that stuff, and then I was like, holy crap. Like, I couldn't believe it.
What power would that give them, though? I mean, so you think it's only power?
Well, I think if I was to really tell you what I think's going on, you'd really think I was nutty. But I mean, what the hell? All right.
Go for
the
it.
Aliens, anyways, are somehow connected. Like, these things have abilities that are like they're connected with death and dying and whatever happens. Like, I used to be an atheist, and now I don't, like, there was a point in my life where I thought when you die, that's it, you're done, right?
Yeah.
But now the more I have pondered it and reflected on the experiences that I've been privy to, the only conclusion I can come to that these things, that there's more than just this life. Like, death is not the end. And these aliens are somehow involved in that. And I think maybe Sasquatch, because remember when you had your bone stacking video, which I thought was an awesome find with the ribs that were stacked up.
Yeah.
Now I think we're kind of leaning towards the idea that maybe Sasquatch had killed those animals and eaten them because, if it's an omnivorous creature, it's got to take in meat sometime. Now, my viewpoint on that is, and I think Alyssa Alexander kind of mentioned it, was that she performs a ritual. She finds bones, she'll stack them, and then she says like a silent prayer to the animal spirits. And my thought was, well, maybe the Sasquatch, because I see them as like healers and things that are nurturing the forest and that are involved in the overall grand scheme of things. Like, when I go into the forest, to me, it's like walking into this magical giant brain. Like, to quote Terrence McKinnon, he said that there's not just a little bit of magic in the universe. Every single atom from one end of the universe to the other is pure magic. And that's kind of what it feels like. And so I think these Sasquatches are involved in that. And so it wouldn't surprise me that they would stack bones together, maybe in some ritual fashion.
Someone in Utah, I was just talking to them, I think they're a native, and they said that they would find out in the wilderness, like up in the tops of the mountains and stuff, skulls of elk and cows, even bulls, and different large grazing animals, and they'd have like feathers stuck in the skull, and they'd be like decorated.
That's fascinating.
So that is it's interesting. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen a Sasquatch eating ever. I just see these. You know what I think of? I think of going to Chuckarama, and you go and you grab the ribs, and you just make a little pile of ribs on your plate.
Right.
And then you go and you grab you put that plate off to the side, and you go back and you grab the drumstick. I just picture them sitting down, sharing different parts of the deer, and piling. And this here's another thing. I haven't mentioned this publicly, I don't think ever, but it seems to me that the large alpha male will get the head and like the spine and the best parts of the animal, because I'll see these bigger impressions where it looks like something heavier was sitting, and that's where the bigger bones are stacked up. When I was I served an LDS mission in Mexico, and down there we ate tacos all day, and I ate the crazy. Oh my gosh, I ate crazy things. I was in like the parts of Mexico that were so tucked away back in the mountains that they didn't even speak Spanish. They still spoke Mayan and different dialects.
Hmm.
I mean, I've eaten some very interesting things. I've eaten turkey that had been crushed. The feathers had been plucked out, and it had been crushed up, bones and everything, organs. It had been crushed up, fried, and given to me. It's awesome. So I've eaten a lot of things, but I used to eat. They were called tacos de cabeza, tacos of the head of the cow.
I love that meat. It's delicious.
It's like the best. It's the most tender meat on the body. The face, for some reason.
We always cook the heads,
and it's like a big pride. It's like the prized meat of the cow, the tongue, the face, and then the brain. And I love brain tacos. I love brain tacos, taco de seso. And so I just wonder sometimes about that, when I see these bigger, the spine, the head, sometimes it will be, if it's a bigger animal, it'll be like the whole back leg, and it will be stacked up. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen one.
Well, I could be completely wrong on this. I think the majority of people lean towards the idea that they kill, and you've got quite a considerable number of people that have reported seeing them
hunt
deer or chasing moose, or and some people even claim to have seen them kill animals. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just not. I don't. Even the evidence that you brought forth, like I could tell by the date that you found that, and the wear and tear and the bleaching of that bone, and the fact, I forget now whether it had, I think it actually had, it still had antlers, little antlers, right? That skull you found?
And it had a piece of the face still on it.
So the skull, see, for it to have antlers, that means that it had to have been killed prior to January of the year before, at least, because they lose their antlers in the wintertime around January or February. So if that had been a recent kill, it wouldn't have had antlers. It would have just had shed spots where.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm saying was the age of that wasn't consistent with if you'd found fresh tracks there. That's one of the problems with Mitchell Townsend's report, is he tries to connect a series of what he claims are Bigfoot tracks with bone stacking behavior. But the problem is that if the tracks of the supposable Bigfoot, let's say that he's not a complete tool, not a complete idiot, and that he does know what a Bigfoot track is. I'm not saying he does, but let's say that he does. So there was a Bigfoot there.
Play nice.
So there was a Bigfoot there.
Uh-huh.
But you can't connect it to the bones because those bones are like a year, 18 months old. Like they're separated by a temporal event, by a lot of time. So in order for somebody to connect the two of them, they should be close in time, like right on top of each other, right?
Well, you know what though? Sasquatch. Here's the thing. Sasquatch do not walk in most places. I know that that's really simple and stupid to say.
No, they're very.
That's how I think about it. But they do walk in few places. And so what I'm saying is they use the same places over and over to walk in. And so you'll find really old tracks and new tracks sometimes, and then you'll find old bones, new tracks. So yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you this about Mitchell Townsend. He told me to start looking whenever I'd find a bone pile or a rib or whatever. He told me to start looking for the bite marks on, so you know how you bite a piece of corn.
I really need to send you. I need to send you a link. When he the paper that he wrote, the references in there, he references forensic, dentine, chronological. Somebody uses these fancy words. Basically, what he's doing is he's referencing papers to people that went and took like pigs and other things and stuck them out in the environment and let rodents gnaw on them, and then they went to analyze the bones to see if you could actually determine, if something's doing this. Well, at least two of the papers that he's referenced in support of his paper don't support his paper. The findings, if you read those actual peer-reviewed papers, they say the exact opposite of what he's claiming. In fact, one of the women, a PhD student, even took it upon herself to make a video discrediting him, basically saying, you haven't read my paper. You're using my paper to support your findings. My paper actually discredits your findings. And she went to great length to go on about how you can't do what he's claiming he's doing, that you cannot take a bone from the environment and match it up to something. Because if they're fresh bones, when they're chewing on them, especially the rib bones, they're very fragile. They're bendy. When they start to dry, they deform. They don't retain that shape really well. So what he's claiming that he didn't do. And
well, I will say this though. So he told me to go out and look for these dentition marks. He's saying that you might find just these little marks on the side of bones where the bone is actually crushed down to the marrow, not completely gouged out, but crushed down. And I have found those, and I filmed them. And so I think that's interesting. I'll find
what type of bones where it was crushed down to? Ribs?
Well, actually, let me try to think about the one that I found. I can't remember if it was a rib or a clavicle bone.
Because the animals will go after the marrow because, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know. There's a lot of energy in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you can. It looks like somebody either took their fingernails, because there's these bulges right in the side, and it's crushed down. It's crushed, and so he told me to go find that, and I have found it. But it doesn't look. It's not like it looks like perfect humanoid dentition, and so it's something interesting anyway. You know, I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything.
You really need to go and listen to that girl. I mean, here's what you can tell when you look at bones. You can tell that an animal has been chewing on it. Sometimes you can determine if rodents
marks, if it's a porcupine or a rat or a pack rat, you can see the scrapes and you can see the marrow that was sucked out. Yeah,
But let's say that you and I sit down and killed a deer and ate the ribs and we stack the bones up there. Somebody is not going to be able to come along afterwards. Now, when the bone is fresh, they got it right off the bat. Like if it's a fresh bone, that's a different story. Here's another thing. He referenced a paper to support the dentine, the bite marks on bones, but the paper was actually done on soft tissue, and the two don't translate. Like they were using, like, you know, if somebody bites somebody, like in a court case, like you're going to leave your marks, and that's soft flesh, right? He used that paper to support the idea that he was doing that with bone.
Yeah, well, you know,
those how they don't connect together. I'm telling you, I might as well go on another subject, man.
Let's not go after Mitchell Townsend. I appreciate that he's trying, and I just don't know. Obviously, I don't know his side of the stuff. So, what were we originally talking about before we got into this bone biting?
Invisibility. Oh, I don't. Before this.
What brought us here?
Aliens and invisibility.
This isn't a good conversation. This isn't a good combination to have like a nice linear conversation.
How do you feel about the invisibility? No people want to know this. How do you feel about it now? Huh? What do you want to say publicly about invisibility, Rio?
No, I've said a lot publicly, actually. Oh my gosh. It's like it's gotten really hot in here. It's not just because I'm uncomfortable suddenly. It's
I can see the beads of sweat coming off your forehead.
It's those. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk about another subject. No, it actually did just get really hot in here. I think I'm a little sick today or something, so I feel tired and stuff. Invisibility is quite fascinating because you watched my latest video about my present awareness theory.
I like that.
Now, obviously, it's a very general theory, and I'm talking about probabilities. People think that people have already come at me like Christopher Noel. He's such a jerk. He's such a bully to me. Just joking.
He loves me.
No, he's awesome.
Yeah.
We get along great. He's a great guy. But anyway, he said, no, man. He's like, listen, here's an exception here, here, and here. He threw out these exceptions, and I'm like, well, yeah.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he is. Yes,
he is a smart guy.
Sasquatch does come up and look in people's windows. Sometimes when Sasquatch wants to have an interaction with you, it will be physical. You know, but I'm talking about probabilities. And I feel like the probability of somebody actually seeing a Sasquatch with their own eyes, right? So you're looking at a large, hairy, man-like creature. The probability of that happening, at least in my experience, when it knows that you're there, it knows how many of you there are, it has the whole situation sized up, with what's going on, and it's going to come in and interact with you, the probability that you're going to see an ape-like creature is lower.
You think it's higher if you sneak in and they don't know you're there and it's a surprise?
No, this is here's when I think it's higher. I think it's higher when they're unaware, you're unaware, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you look down a mountain range and you see a Sasquatch.
Well, that's what I just said, that if you came upon one and they didn't know you were going to be there.
Sure. Usually
you're saying if you're not even hunting for Sasquatch, you've got a better chance.
Yeah, usually like the videos that people have.
Well, now, wait a minute. So I'm curious about this. Do you think that it's better if you're not hunting Bigfoot? Because if you're hunting Bigfoot, you're thinking about it and it can read your mind. Is that what you're saying, Rio? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Rio believes in mind speak.
Yeah, I'm preaching mind speak. No,
that's basically what you're saying.
I do think, though, I actually do kind of feel like, in a way, that might be true with intuition. But that's kind of a whole different subject, because I do feel that they have a really good read on things.
Oh, I agree.
I feel that. I really feel it. I feel that their intuition is a couple levels above ours. Now, I've said this before. I don't think, some people say, oh, the sixth sense. And I'm like, no, there's not only six, there's not only six. There's probably like 30 senses above, taste, smell, touch, seeing, and hearing. There's probably like 30 more senses that we have and that we're all aware of, but we don't sit down and categorize them. Like if a twin brother dies, here's a story. There's a twin brother, identical twins. One of them was electrocuted, and the other one was at home. This one died, but the one at home felt the electricity running through his body. He felt a huge jolt, and he knew his twin was dead. Okay, so that's a sense. Clearly, you're able to perceive things. And there's the sense that that you're being stared at, and your body knows what.
Well, I'm saying they say that, but no, I agree with the telepathy. I'm fully on board that. I do think
a lot of senses, and I think that Sasquatch displays a lot of keen abilities in a lot of those different types of senses.
What if that they have an ability to view time differently than we do? That would make them appear to be almost able to know things psychically. I talked about sideways time. I was talking about different, because who is it? Ron Moorhead relates an experience where he was inside the tent and he hears the camp being destroyed, and he comes out expecting the camp to be completely demolished. Everything's just the way he left it. And we heard 6 to 8 trees being pushed over that sounded like they were giant, monstrous trees, and we couldn't see them. And I went to recon the area looking. I couldn't find any fresh trees that had been pushed over. And then we found in folklore, where there was European folklore, they named this creature that would go into the forest, and it would try to scare people out of the forest by making the sound of a tree falling down. Didn't push the trees down, it just made the sound. So it got me thinking about, potential nows on either side of our now. Like, we only view time from A to B in a linear. We only view moments, right? Moments in time.
Right, yeah.
But the experiments they do in quantum mechanics strongly suggest that there's multiple nows that could possibly occur, and only one actually manifests itself. Well, if Sasquatch is aware of these other nows, see, they would have, like you talk about him being smarter than a person. You're also talking about these different senses. I'm kind of putting the idea that they got more senses than us.
I'll never say that they're smarter than a person. That's way too simplistic. That's like saying humans are the smartest animal on the earth. It's like so simplistic. It's like, what? So we get to be the measuring sticks of intelligence?
Well, because we made up the exam.
And conveniently, we put ourselves on top as the most intelligent.
I know, it's funny.
If a cat walks into this room, if my cat walks into this room, and everything is exactly the same and one little thing is moved, it will notice it, and I won't notice it. Even if you ask me to go and identify the thing that was moved, I won't know. So is my cat smarter than me? Yes. In that way, my cat is smarter than me. So I don't like to say that humans are smarter than Sasquatch, or Sasquatch is smarter than humans. But I will say that Sasquatch is displaying extreme levels of intelligence that I think are foreign to humans, or maybe humans are even incapable of.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. It's almost as if that you were, let's say that you were a blind person and had never known sight. That's kind of how I feel when I go into the forest, that Sasquatch has eyes and I'm blind. It's like
Yeah.
they seem to know what I'm going to do. They seem to know when I'm going to go before I go there. And they're very good at manipulating subtly, very subtly manipulating things that maybe direct you to a spot and you find something that you wouldn't have.
You know, it's weird, dude. Let me tell you, man, when it comes to the invisibility thing, I have thought of everything. You know, I have sat there and I've thought, are they shape-shifting? Are they underground? Like some people think, are they burrowing underground? Are they walking into trees? Are they becoming orbs? Are they becoming normal people? There was this time, I'll share this story. I'll share it, whatever. Everyone wants me to share it anyway. I'll share it. There was this time where I was hearing screams and weird noises. You know, the crazy, really loud noises, like very deep, robust, loud, totally not English, not human sounding. And at the same time, and there was not just one, it was like multiple of these voices. Okay. Clearly it was a humanoid voice. And at the same time, there's all this snapping, bashing, like tree knocks, boom, and then rock crashes, and then snap. And I'm like, and it was coming at me.
Is this at night?
This is at night. This is like 1 a.m. This is the story of the 3 teenagers. And people have wanted me to tell this story for a long time. So I'll just tell it. So anyway, I'm down at a place kind of in the city. It's on the outskirts of the city. It's where people have had Sasquatch encounters. There's like structures everywhere, bone piles. I found tracks down there. It's a pretty active area. And about once or twice a year, I will hear screams, blood-curdling, a woman being murdered, you know, type of scream. Very alarming screams. And the neighborhoods above this area will complain about the screaming, call the police. And,
wow.
Okay, but it only happens, it's rare. You know, it's rare enough to the point where if you talk about it with someone, they're like, what do you mean? And then you're like, no, well, have you ever heard a scream? You're like, oh, yeah, maybe we have. So it's not like a super huge thing that people are cognizant of. But anyway, I know what's going on. So I'm down there standing in this place. I'm actually standing by an old semi-abandoned building. And I'm in an old parking lot, but it's been kind of reclaimed by the forest. And I'm all alone, and I don't have enough time to get into my car. And so I'm like, whatever's coming is going to come, and I'm going to have a freaking Sasquatch encounter right now. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do to stop this. It's going to happen, and I'm going to see whatever's coming is going to come right out of the forest. I'm going to see it. So it's coming around, and all of a sudden it stops at the edge of the forest. All the noise stops. And 3 teenagers, normal kids, walk out of the forest. And there was 2 dudes, and they're all completely dressed in black. Now I have to tell you,
that's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the forest is pitch black. You can't see jack. Okay, these kids did not have flashlights. You can't see anything, and they were coming fast. They were coming through the forest fast, and they were coming through a place where there was no trail. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting, and it was pretty thick. It's really thick. If you ever come to visit me, I'll take you to exactly where this happened. So anyway, this story is really fun to read into. I don't read into it, but it's fun though. It's just one of those things. I'm just telling you, it's an experience I had where it's like it's weird, you know, and it makes you want to ask, like, oh, I finally killed that stupid fly. It makes you want to ask, like, what's happening with the Sasquatch stuff. So anyway, these 3 teenagers come. They all have hoodies. All of them have black hoodies on. The blonde girl, you can see her blonde hair sticking out of the hoodie a little bit. They're just about as tall as me. It was so shocking to see these 3 kids come out. I couldn't see any part of their body at all except for their white faces and I think they're white, their hands, but they're wearing black, black, black. And I could tell that there was, I think I had a headlamp on, I think, because I could tell that it was actually black. It wasn't just dark colors, or it wasn't just dark, so I thought it was black. They were actually in black clothing. Anyway, so they came right towards me, and I thought, oh, now what's going to happen? Are they going to try to jump me or something? And they came right towards me, but they wouldn't look at me. And I said, hey, how you guys doing? Because it was awkward. I didn't know what else to say. I was like, hey, how you guys doing? And they didn't acknowledge me. They kept their heads down, and they walked single file, and they walked towards me. And then when they got to the corner of the building, they turned and they just walked along the side. Now, it was also interesting that in this old parking lot, there's gravel and broken glass and all sorts of stuff. And I didn't hear a single sound.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear a single sound. So I'm watching these three normal looking teenagers walking past. They walk up a little road, a little dark road, and they cross a viaduct that goes over the train tracks. And so I'm seeing cars go by these guys. Once they got up on the viaduct, they all looked at me, and they kept their eyes trained on me the whole way. And they walked, and it's like a, I don't know, 500-foot long viaduct. And then they go down on the other side, and then they go into the forest. And I'm like, what the freak just happened? That was so weird. I was like, so I'm like, okay, what was that? Do I pretend that didn't happen? Do I just stick it in a weird folder and not mention it to any of my followers? Or should I see, I have a lot of those weird experiences. And so what I did is I created a secret group where I just tell my weird stories to people, because I have a lot of weird stories like that. But anyway, there was another one that happened, probably even weirder. It was with a homeless man. I'll have to tell you about that sometime. It was crazy. In the same exact place,
wow.
In that same parking lot, in that same forest, literally in the same place, I had an experience that's even weirder than the one that I just talked about. But yeah, these kids went off into the forest again. And so here I am thinking, like, okay, are they freaking shape-shifting into humans? Like, what the freak is going on? Obviously, I don't think that they're shape-shifting.
Let me tell you something about shape-shifting. This story was told to me by David Bacara of the Expedition Bigfoot Museum out of Georgia, Blue Ridge, Georgia, I think. You heard of him?
No. Maybe. I don't know.
He had a guy come in there that was in his 60s that had said that he had gone parking when he was a teenager, and it was him and a friend of his and two girls. Well, the guy, at some point, the girls they're in their parking spot. They're up, Lover's Lane, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
The girls start screaming bloody murder, and he looks over at his friend, and his friend is now a Sasquatch.
Wait.
In the van with them, a huge Sasquatch. His friend was sitting on the other side of the van, like the two girls and this guy are on one side of the van, and his friend, for whatever reason, like I don't know if they were, getting high or drinking beer or whatever they were doing, all of a sudden the guy is not a guy anymore. He transforms into this Sasquatch. And the girls start screaming. The guy sees it. They're all like busting their ass to try to get out of the van. And he happens to look back, and now his friend's back. And the Bigfoot's not there. It's his friend. And his friend's like, what's going on? Why are you guys like screaming? Like he had no clue was ever gone. So the guy swears it's true. Swears that his friend turned into a Sasquatch inside of this van.
So one thing that we can get from that story is that Sasquatch probably do have driver's licenses. They can drive. They're probably very good drivers. Was it the guy that was driving?
I don't remember. I don't know if it was or not. I found it to be very interesting, though, because I'm not going to go into it now, but I've had experiences that have led me to believe that we could look at certain people thinking they're humans and they're not.
Yeah.
Like, I know how crazy that sounds, but
you know how a lot of people think that? A lot of like conspiracy theorists think that there's synthetic humans and robot humans and
there's things out there that are not human that appear
and all that stuff. But I'll say this though, I was thinking about that after that experience. I was like,
"Oh, that's crazy. That's bizarre."
Yeah, I was thinking about. I was like, okay, that's so weird. I don't even. Okay, let me. Do you want to hear the other one?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So
People would hate me if I said no. They'd be like, "Oh, dude, man, Rio was going to tell the story, and you shut him down."
hey, by the way, do you want this to be public or should we keep it?
No,
Oh,
just post it public.
okay, I'll post the public.
Make sure everybody knows my channel is Snowwalker Prime.
Yeah, good channel, great channel, Snowwalker Prime. I'm
Yeah.
serious about that, dude. I like your channel.
Oh, thank you.
I like that you're not trying to be anything. You just say
I gave up on that a while ago.
what you're feeling. You know, you're not trying to be popular on YouTube. You're not trying to get more subscribers. You're not trying to be the best researcher or some
It's
crap.
nice to have more subscribers, though. I will admit it is like it gives you some validation that what you're doing is actually worth doing.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm personally kind of annoyed. I shouldn't feel this way, but I'm personally kind of annoyed when my subscribers go up because I start to feel like more pressure. This whole thing was supposed to be just like a small channel, like maybe we're 12, 15 people subscribed, and I was just kind of dumping my videos.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's still weird to me that people are even interested because I'm not showing a Bigfoot, you know.
Well, no, but you're seeking the truth. Like you and I might not always like. A couple of people think you and I are like really at odds. I'm like, no, man, I like Rio. I'm friends with him. They're like, you're an ass to him.
No,
but I'm not. I'm just seeking the truth. I'm just trying to find the truth. And you and I don't have to agree on everything. Like who the hell agrees on everything? It still doesn't mean that I still respect what you're doing, right?
it's so juvenile. I can't believe how juvenile people are. I think that people cannot be friends if they don't agree on some random freaking thing. Anyway, so
So the story, the crazy.
So this story. Here I am in the same place because this is a weird place, and if you ever come, you'll be like, yeah, this is a weird place. So
you can sense it, you can feel it when you're there that there's something different.
Yes, and I have sensed it since I was a kid. Has really nothing to do with Bigfoot. I always felt like there were parts of the forest nobody would go into. You just wouldn't go into them. It was just scary. So I look at fear a lot. I like to pick it up and turn it over and look at it, smell it, stretch it. See what is making me afraid. Why is there this fear that's keeping people? It's like a dark zone. Nobody goes into these certain areas. Almost like you don't need a government cover-up because there's like a secret dome over these areas where they're scary and people just don't go in. Anyway, so I like to go into these areas and just like, what the freak's going on? Why am I scared right now? I'm in the same place. This time this is like January or late December or something. And there's snow on the ground. There's like 3 feet of snow. And it's during a blizzard. Okay. And so it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. I go down there and I'm like thinking to myself, special forces in the military, special forces are trained to use storms to their advantage so that they can move tactically under the cover of the weather. And so I said, maybe that's what's happening when the Sasquatch are coming through here. So I go down there and I'm standing there. My car is parked, or maybe I didn't even have my car. I can't remember. No, I had to have my car. Anyway, I obviously had my car because my car is parked, and way off in the distance, I see this big black man, this big black hooded figure. I mean, he has a hoodie on. And so again, he has this hoodie up, pointed hoodie, just like the 3 teenagers, black, all dressed in black.
That's too crazy so that's 4 people that came out of there all dressed in black.
So this guy, instead of coming out of the forest, he's walking down into the forest. And this is late. Okay, this is like 2 in the morning or something. I can see the whites of his hands, the white of his face, but he's all dressed in black. He has like a black shirt underneath, and then a black sweater hoodie, and then he has black jeans, black boots, and he has so much brown thick hair. long, and it's like stuffing out of his the front of his hoodie and everything. Big beard, big old gnarly brown, super thick beard, mustache and everything. You can barely see his mouth, and it's coming up on his cheeks and everything. Just really hairy dude. Okay, I didn't see this until I got close, but anyway, the reason that I got close is because he was kind of staggering, like almost like he was drunk. He was walking weird, and he gets to the edge of this snow-covered hill. And by the way, he doesn't have winter garb on, so you'd think that he'd be freezing in this blizzard. He just has like the sweater, right? Like kind of what I'm wearing right now, but he doesn't have like a coat and gloves and stuff. Anyway, he gets to this hill and he falls on his back and he slides down this hill, and he's just kind of like this, almost like he's dazed and confused. I'm like, oh, poor drunk guy is wandering into the forest. And he gets down and he starts wandering through the forest. And if you could just see him from far away, it would be nothing but a black figure. So anyway, I drove up next to him and got in my car, drove all the way over there, drove next to him, and I rolled my window down. I said, "Hey, buddy, can I give you a ride? I mean, there's a blizzard. Just hop in the car. Let me give you a ride." And I know everyone's like, "Don't do that. They could murder you." I don't feel that. I've never felt like homeless. I've never felt like I don't know. I'm just not like that. So anyway, I've always helped.
They're trying to survive. They're not really out to kill. That's not really their gig.
Yeah, I help people. If I have my wife and children in the car, I won't do that. But I help people all the time. So anyway, we go over there, and he gives me a big smile. He's like, "Thanks, man." And he comes over and he gets in the car. And so I said, "Hey, I saw you fall down the hill, man. I'm sorry. Are you okay?" He's like, "Oh, man, I'm totally fine. Thank you. I don't know if he said man. I don't think he did, actually. Sorry. Let me try to actually remember what it was like. He's like, "No, I'm fine. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother." He said brother. He said brother all the time. So I thought that's cool because you think Mike Patterson, brother. So,
yeah.
But he did. He was saying brother and stuff. So, and I looked over at him, and I was like, "Where can I take you, buddy?" And he's like, "Oh, just take me up the hill on the other side of the forest." He just wanted to go up the hill. And I thought that was weird. But I said, so what you doing out here so late? He's like, "Oh, I just stay at my girlfriend's house, and a lot of time I just stay over at her house, but sometimes I like to stay down in the forest." And I said, "Well,
during the blizzard."
Dude, inhospitable. It's like -9 degrees outside. It's like so cold that your face hurts. And this guy has no gloves, nothing, right?
Mm.
But drunk people, to be honest, drunk people can walk around in the blizzards, and for some reason they stay warm, and it's weird. So anyway, but once I start talking to him, I feel like, no, this guy's not drunk at all. He's lucid. Very cordial, very polite. But so he gets into my car. So when he opened the door, he bent down to get in my car, and I saw this guy is huge. This guy is huge. He's like 6'5", 6'7", really tall guy, but it's not his height that I'm thinking is so big. And when he put his leg in my car on the passenger side, his thigh was easily like 2 of my thighs, easily. Huge thigh, just a big, robust man. I have a Mormon bishop. The pastor in my congregation, we call them bishops. The leader of my congregation is a guy from West Virginia, and he's been a carpenter his whole life. And I have never met a man with such gigantic hands and fingers. My bishop's fingers are like so huge. I go to shake my bishop's hand, and I feel like a little kid, "Daddy, hi," because his hands are so massive. You just squish my hands to powder. And I never had met a guy with such large hands until this homeless guy got in my car. His hands were massive. And I remember looking down at his hands coming out of his black hoodie, which, by the way, his black hoodie was too short. The sleeves were kind of like this. It's too short, okay? So I'm seeing, and this guy really hairy. lots of hair on his fingers. You know, men are sometimes hairy, no big deal. You know, my dad's really hairy, but this guy was like just like my dad. Lots of hair on his fingers, lots of hair on his hand, lots of just thick brown hair. But his fingers were so big.
So what are you saying, man?
Let me keep telling it. It gets weirder. I mean, like, and then at the end of his fingers, his nails are curved around the tips of his fingers. If you've ever seen someone that gets their finger chopped off, because a lot of my family are carpenters, and so like I go to family reunions and there's all these people with like missing fingers. so sometimes when someone has an accident and they cut the tip of their finger off, their nail will go down.
It's funny you would say that because my family were fishermen and my uncles and stuff would always have their fingers missing.
Really? It's funny.
They'd be caught up in the line and the nets and stuff and get ripped off.
Oh, that's horrible. Oh my gosh. So this guy had big, thick fingernails, thick freaking fingernails, and they were going over the tips of his fingers on every single thing, on all of his fingers.
So just say it. Just say it. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking to myself, this guy's a freaking Sasquatch. I was like, this guy is a freaking Sasquatch. Obviously, I don't really think he's a Sasquatch, but like I was like,
maybe he was.
I was thinking to myself, like, what is going on? Here's why I'm letting myself think this, because I read Kiwani Lapsaritis. I read his book.
I like Kiwani.
Yeah, I figured you would probably like his stuff.
I do like him.
I like it because I think it's interesting enough, and it held my attention. And I'm like, let's just consider everything. Why not? So I read it.
He's a little more original than the guy that's copying him.
Yes, exactly. He's like coming up with all the content that other people are copying,
right?
And saying that it's new, and they're even going further, and they're saying that it's revelation, and it's like, that's not revelation. That's Kiwani Lapsaritis.
Kiwani's been doing it for quite a while, yeah.
Anyway, Kiwani is kind of the father of what we would call the woo or whatever.
I corresponded with him. I said, "What's the most important thing you can do?" And he said, "Meditate."
Interesting.
Very, very good advice.
So Kiwani was talking about how like the Sasquatch know how much money is in his bank account. They know like people stuff. They know like, oh, you know, the Sasquatch will help you get a promotion at work. They'll, you know, the way that Kiwani looks at Sasquatch is like they're very adept at like what's happening in society, almost like they're guardian angel type people sometimes. Like he even said that one of them took his Kiwani says that one of them took his card from an ATM, took it as a prank, took his credit card out of an ATM, and then he put the credit card on the table at home. And then they thought that was funny. So the Sasquatch will like do weird stuff. And there's another person I know that says the Sasquatch will actually be in the car with them in the middle of the city. They'll look in their rearview mirror and they'll get a glimpse of like an invisible Sasquatch or whatever. They'll hear a grunt in their ear. And so since those theories are out there, this homeless guy is in my car and I'm like, this guy's a freaking Sasquatch.
Maybe he was.
I made it a point to like talk to him and look at him, right? I just want to have fun because it's so random and weird. He was walking towards the wallow, by the way.
Wow.
I was near a wallow. He was walking towards a wallow. And so I started asking him about where he's staying in the woods. I said, well, where are you sleeping out here? And I said, oh, I have a tent. And I said, well, where's your tent, man? Because I knew there was no tent in the forest. There's 0 tents in the forest. I knew that forest very well. And he says, well, he's like, here's the building. It's like 1,000 feet to the left of the building. Guess what? There's a structure over there that I found prints by. So anyway, so there's like weird things, right? So I thought that was weird. Maybe there was a tent under the snow or something, you know. So anyway, I took him up to the top of the hill, and as we were going up there, I'm like, so where are you from? He's like, Northern California. And I'm like,
Bluff Creek.
Yeah, Bluff Creek. Right? He says, I'm from Northern California. And I'm like, so what? Why are you in Utah? He's like, oh, I wander the country. I go here and there. I said, so what have you done? Blah, blah, blah. He said that he works for the Air Force as doing parts for aircraft. Parts for aircraft is what he said. And installing parts for aircraft. So he would say things that that would make total sense, right? And so I was looking, and I would look at his face, and sure enough, this guy had a big old brow, very big brow, really bushy eyebrows. His eyes were sunken in deep into his face. He had a nose that kind of jutted out, kind of a big, robust jaw. Like, I was like, this is like, you could put this man in a museum in a loincloth and say, behold, a Neanderthal. Like a Neanderthal, 100%, right?
So if you were to take a Sasquatch and turn it into a person, this is the guy that was in the car with you.
Yeah, if you like shaved a Sasquatch down, gave him a little. So anyway.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he told me his name. It was like Dave. It was like some normal name. And I talked to him. Very nice guy. Big smiles and everything. And then I dropped him off. I dropped him off, and I watched him go into like some 24-hour convenience store. Because I wanted to watch him. I was like, what's he going to do? Is he going to like tear off his clothes and howl at the moon and run into the forest or something? So anyway, he went to a convenience store. So those stories are fun because they're weird stories that are true. I'm not exaggerating not a single part of that story. It's all exactly how it happened. And so they're interesting enough to, wonder about. So the point is, we were talking about invisibility. My point is, I've considered lots of things, and I just don't know. I don't think that I don't have a good reason to believe that they go invisible. I can tell you that I have heard a lot of noises where there's nothing there.
Yes. This is my point. I've heard this. I've heard breathing that felt like it was 3 feet behind me and there was nothing there. But yet I could hear this deep, oh, and I mean, I have been like able to, hit moose with a stick, like crouch down and have them go right by me really close. And they're 800-900 pounds. You can barely hear them breathing. And yet I'm hearing this thing that sounds like these giant bellows. And I wasn't the only one that heard it. Lady K heard it in a different spot in the forest.
Yeah.
That same evening. And actually just it was like a month ago, I did a video about it when we were up there. I think that we were observing was these things like going between, we could, there was a pond, right? So there's these trees and there's a pond behind it. And we were seeing the Sasquatches, what I think were Sasquatches, like I don't know, but it was like almost like the Predator. There'd be like a shimmering or something there'd be a visual disturbance that would pass between the trees, but there wasn't anything there, right? And then as it got darker and darker, all of a sudden, then there started being like a shadow person. And finally, the last thing I saw, it was quite dark, was like completely dense and black and dark.
Okay.
And massive, 12, at least 10, 12, 14 feet. I mean, I was a couple hundred feet away, but this thing was huge, like a big person.
Yeah.
Walking between the gaps of the trees quite quickly, not lumbering along like a moose would, but like, just really like too quick.
Almost like flitting between the trees, like a deck of cards. I heard a guy describe it as like a deck of cards when you're shuffling the cards.
That's a good way of describing it. And they don't come out, like they'll be gaps and gaps and gaps, and they'll just go between one gap.
Yep. And
you just saw this thing that was huge that went behind a tree that was too small to hide it, and it's not like sticking out from around the tree, like it's just not here anymore.
Yeah.
So either they're turning invisible, or they're doing like the magician's trick where it cuts the girl in half and we think the girl is cut in half, but actually there's a trick to it, but we don't know what the trick is.
Yeah.
So it's a trick somehow.
We don't know what's going on. I've seen more than I'm willing to say publicly yet. So when we'll talk privately, and I'll tell you a couple interesting stories like the one that you just told. I will say this though, people keep talking about Predator. If you go back and you look and you actually watch the movie Predator, when he's in his cloaking mode, you can absolutely see the outline of a physical thing there move. Extremely, extremely obvious that there's something.
Well, it's a movie. what I saw was very similar to that, but like it wouldn't have been good enough for a movie because it's like way more vague than that.
Well,
Hold on a second, I gotta let my dog in.
yeah, I just wanted to tell you, there's stuff I could talk. It's not like, anyway, it's not like The Predator. It's not like The Predator. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, it's not exactly like The Predator, but I use it for an analogy because it's the closest analogy to something that people would know about that I could reference.
When we're talking privately, I'll tell you a lot more about this. But you know, I don't want to start a belief, like I don't want to start some religion accidentally. Oh my gosh, Rio said this, and then you get all these people that are.
I think it's too late for that. Rio.
To profess a belief in what I'm saying, and it's like no. So I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts, like you said. Maybe it's not invisibility at all. Maybe it's an optical illusion. Maybe it's an electrical thing. There's several people that have professed to be able to produce electricity, sparks, and shocks. And there's an Asian guy that can actually start a fire. A lot of people think that this is somehow
not using an ectothermic reaction because there's a lot of tricksters that will take glycerin and pomegranate or something. I've actually got some of this material, and you wrap it up in the paper. You don't let people see you have it. You crush it, and it's an ectothermic reaction that will start paper on fire. So a lot of times when you see the guys, they crumple the paper up and they go. That's what they're doing. Could
be. This guy though could he could bring like positive energy down from his chakras or whatever, negative energy up, and people would touch his belly button area and they would like get shocked. Anyway, there's a documentary out there, and maybe it's not real, you know, but it could be electricity. It could be some sort of weird whatever.
It definitely could be electricity. There's a lot of things they do that no, I think there's something to that.
So it doesn't have to be invisibility. And even if it is invisibility, what is it? Because invisibility does not mean immaterial, and invisibility does not mean different dimension, and invisibility does not mean that it's not physical.
Oh, I see your hesitation there. No, I mean, it could be going invisible. Like if it was an electron in an electron tunnel that doesn't go to another dimension, it just immediately pops into another place in our dimension, right? So it's not there anymore.
That would be called teleportation, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it would, and that would be really remarkable because electrons do it because they go through, wormholes, but they're not stable at large sizes as far as we know. So it should not be possible for a large object to do that. Now, of course, they've made invisibility cloaks, right? Where they're taking and projecting what's behind somebody in front, but there's a lot of technology involved in that. Like, I don't know how an organic creature would do that without tech.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many. I think people love to label things. You know this. People love to create. People love to create boxes around things. Everybody has a cardboard. This is what I pictured. Everybody has a box, and they're carrying the box around in the woods, and they want to throw it over Sasquatch. Oh,
you and I've got boxes.
What?
You and I have we've put them in boxes. We've got different boxes.
Sure.
I used to have your box. Now I got a different box, and your box will probably change, right? Sometime in the future, it will change something different. But
it's always changing.
We have opinion biases, man. It's hard not to have an opinion bias.
It's impossible, but at least you can be aware of it and try to avoid it. Whereas some people they want to label it as fast as they can so they can move on. You know, there's a particular person in the Bigfoot community who recently said, "Oh, I solved it. It's solved. It's solved."
I can see you're a big fan of this guy.
The arrogance and the ignorance of such a statement.
I used to defend him against you, didn't I? Remember?
What'd you say?
Defend him in your inner circle group. Remember?
No, he's. I don't know him.
I'm done defending that character.
I don't know him personally. So, and I'm in no position to judge, but
I think a part of him means well, but I totally agree. He hasn't solved anything. Good grief.
But the fact that he would say stuff like, I've solved it, that doesn't even make sense.
No, what? What's it?
Like it's some sort of simple thing. No, even humans, we're incredible. That's like saying, I've solved humans. You haven't solved humans. Nobody's even come close to solving them.
No.
No one's come close to. That's like saying, I've solved evolution. Oh, you've solved it? What the freak are you talking about? It's
I know the sentence itself doesn't make any sense. The statement itself just doesn't mean anything.
That's exactly right. So when people start saying crap like that, it's like, why are there any followers? Why don't people just immediately say, I don't even have to know if what he's saying is true or false, because his behavior is so hideous and immoral. I don't want to say immoral, unethical, and
Oh yeah, definitely not unethical.
it's just like so many, like the demonization of questions, asking questions, just weird stuff. I mean,
Thou shalt not question Zorth.
In my Facebook group, which is small, my little inner circle, you, Christopher Noel, and any member of the group, people have freaked out on me in there. People have sworn at me. People have come at me and said all sorts of criticisms. They've never been kicked out for it.
No, gosh, I saw it the other day. You were telling how people had that rule they couldn't fight, and I thought, good gosh, it's lucky Christopher Noel and myself have been kicked out of there because.
Well, you shouldn't fight, but you can debate and disagree.
I try not to fight with Chris, but
yeah, you're kind of a fighter sometimes.
Yeah, I try not to, but
you're getting way better. You're getting way better.
Well, look, here on the upside to him, I understand you're questioning why would people follow him, but here's the thing: even somebody like him goes into the forest, and I don't question that real weird shit's happening there.
I don't question that either.
Like, you're a fan of, I don't know if you're a fan, but let's say you're more of a supporter of Todd Standing than I am. That would be a fair statement to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if I think that Todd Standing is completely full of it, that doesn't mean that he can't go into the forest and run into these things, because in my mind, you're hard-pressed to go into the forest and not run into them. Like, it's 180 degrees from what people think it is. People have been led to believe that, oh my gosh, I'm looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's not what the case is at all. Like, you go into the forest, these things are all over the place.
There's sign everywhere. Todd Standing, I talked to him for hours, and we laughed and joked, and he talked to me about all sorts of stuff. And he is going deep into the woods. I mean, no one can deny that. That's not up for debate. He's going deep into the mountains of, is it British Columbia?
Somewhere's in Canada. I don't know where he's at exactly.
Western Canada, right? But I mean, he's going out there. He's looking for Bigfoot. He's found gigantic tree structures. I have no doubt that he's at least experienced a lot of the things that I've experienced, and he's told me about it too. He said they make footprints on these areas up the hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't question any of that. My question was the photographs that he got, and then he claimed he could take people back there, and then that never really seemed to happen. And then the lack of, like I say, what I now use for my litmus test for something being valid is, do people report the woo? And if they're not reporting the woo, then I'm thinking, well, they probably might be a little bit full of it.
There's another thing too, is because I was really surprised talking to Todd that he had experienced a lot of the weirder things that I have, which is another reason I knew that he was actually experiencing the real thing. And so I don't have his permission to share those things, but I'll talk to you about it later when we're talking in private, because you'd be surprised at what he
No,
thinks.
actually, I wouldn't be surprised, because all of that could be real. I'm not saying that he's not encountering those things. I just question his video.
I don't know those. I don't know. But I do love people that actually go out. I love it when people actually go out.
You have to give credit for the people that go out, because there's an awful lot of people that, I mean, some people can't go out. It's not their fault, but there's a good portion of people, like some of these breakdown channels, they don't even make an attempt to go outside, but yet they act like they're experts, and all they are really doing is debunking every single thing that comes across their plate.
That's right.
They don't think there's anything to it. Like, why are you here? Why are you mucking up this field? Like, we can't look at some, kid in a gorilla suit and determine that for ourselves. Like, we need to have you tell us.
Yeah, some of them are so stupid and obvious. It's like, why are we even debunking this? But then other ones, this is what I really love about the Bigfoot community, is that you have videos like the Independence Day Bigfoot, which has never been debunked in any way, shape, or form at all. And
there's a half dozen or so videos out there that you couldn't really discredit.
Yeah, and you can sit there and say it could be a puppet or whatever the freak all day long.
Something I like better than that, than like those half dozen, is you were saying about the people that go out. I love the videos of the people that are going into the forest, because even if they're not getting like, in your face Bigfoot stuff, oftentimes I'll watch that. I don't know about you, but I'll watch that and I'll nod my head, because they'll be explaining things, or they'll say something happened. And I'll go, damn, that same thing happened to me.
Exactly.
Right. You can draw those parallels and those I think that's really powerful. It at least makes you feel like, hey, that there is something to this. You're not completely nuts.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. No, we need, I don't think we can have enough of those type of channels. There's too few of them.
Hey, there's 25 viewers right now. Cool. I'll make it.
A lot of people are watching.
Yeah, I'll make it public, and then they're all here. But, dude, I'm jealous of you that you live in Maine.
Why?
Because Maine is like Lord of the Rings. It's beautiful. There's lighthouses and the rocky beaches and the lighthouses and the dense forest and the Native American history there. I guess it's here too. But
look at you got beautiful spots you're in.
That's right. That's right. But Maine,
we don't have mountains like that out here.
The Appalachians come up on the south, right?
Well, we have mountains, but they're not the steep mountain. They're not the new type mountains that you've got. They're much older and they've been wore down, and it's just different.
Yeah, is it pretty humid where you're at? You're in the south, right?
Yeah, no, I'm about in the middle of the state, but I wouldn't really classify Maine as being humid per se. Okay. If you're in the dense forest, you'll find a lot of fungus and stuff. It's got microhabitats that are kind of.
What's your elevation?
Well, it's about 300 feet here, but where we go up north, it's a couple thousand feet.
Oh, geez.
1,500 feet, usually between 1,000 and 1,500 feet elevation.
My house is 4,500.
Yeah, see, completely different scenario.
Yeah.
You come to Maine, and we'll go tromp around in the forest. Now, that would make for a great video.
Only if you promise me an ET encounter.
Well, I can't promise you one, but I can give you high statistical odds of yes.
Really? You think so?
Well, I think I've told this story before on my channel, but when I was dating Lady K, got to the point, is your wife home? We got to go.
Hold on just one sec.
I'll continue to talk. So I was dating Lady K, and I like started to, kind of get, like I started to realize I really liked this girl. So one evening I told her, I said, if you stay with me long enough, chances are pretty good that that you'll probably see a UFO. Well, she took it the wrong way and thought that I was like trying to ditch her or something.
Well, that's funny.
You hear that?
I did hear it. I heard all of it.
But I wasn't trying to ditch her. I was actually trying to prepare her, because I thought at some point
he's going to see the weird, and at some point I need to give it to her in doses.
I have probably seen 3 dozen, maybe, UFOs, maybe more.
Wow.
And I have probably been on maybe 8 times, 6 to 8 times, 10 times with other people, and had them also see. So, like, I'm not hallucinating these things on my own. Other people are seeing them as well.
I'll tell you this. Finish your story though with Lady K. Was that it?
Well, no. I mean, just the thing was, I just went to warn her about that. So, like, I can't promise you. Like, another friend of mine went camping with me. We were actually looking for UFOs, and we go to the top of this mountain. We were up by Catardon Iron Works. It's a real famous location where they used to mine iron in the state of Maine, and it's quite remote. And so we were looking. We saw some strange lights and stuff. And so I told this guy, I said, "Man, you want to be careful what you ask for." Well, the very next night, he went home the next night. Well, that next night when he's coming home from work, he had an incredible UFO encounter. Saw it he lived in a trailer park at the time, saw the UFO. Thing actually hovered over his house. He ran inside because it spooked him so bad. Then he went out and hopped in his car and followed it for a while. Made a humming noise over his house.
Huh. Yeah, so, I would not want to see something up in the sky. I don't want to see something like hovering over the forest and I'd want to see like passengers or something. You know, I want to see something incredible. You know, but I will tell you, here's what I saw. I was out with Kevin, a guy that I like to go out because he's willing to go deep into the remote areas of the wilderness. So we were out camping, backs on the ground. I don't like to camp in a tent. Okay.
Me neither.
So I'm just on the ground looking up at the sky. And of course we're seeing the satellites go by. And then all of a sudden we see out of nowhere, like right in the middle of space, so there's no stars or anything, just at this section of blackness, a really bright light, like a shooting star. It gets really, really bright, really, really bright.
But it starts from complete darkness, like somebody turned on a rheostat, and then it brightens, right?
That's right. That's right.
Exact same thing. Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Exactly.
But it gets really, really, really bright, and then it dims down and it starts traveling. So it seems to be going slow at first, and then it starts moving, and as it starts to move, it dims down, and then it becomes really dim. A dim little light, like a satellite, but even dimmer, and it just travels along really, really slowly. And then I think so I'm thinking this isn't a shooting star because it's moving too slow, and it's staying illuminated dimly for way too long, and it went like halfway across the sky, and then it went behind a cloud and it was just gone. That happened twice. And so, yeah, but we're talking tiny little dots in the sky.
No, Lady K and I one night was sitting there on our back, and we're looking at this section of the sky that was pitch dark, and I saw something like go blink, but it was so faint that I thought I imagined it, and I didn't say anything. And then it did it again, and I finally said to her, I go, did you see that? And she goes, yeah. And about the time we both agreed we saw it, from nothing, this little light comes on and gets brighter and brighter and gets like really bright, and it goes whoop, winks out, and I was like, you bastard. And then it goes bleak bleak, and then it like gets really bright again. It didn't go anywheres, but it like played with us for a while, directly over our heads.
So Kiwani Lapsaritis, I was talking to him, and
he saw one with a little tiny guy come out of it.
He's had lots of experience. He's had
lots of UFOs.
He's had like female Sasquatch type human creatures try to like
date him,
have sex with him or whatever, and he's turned him down because he's a good guy.
I don't think I would tell that story if it happened to me.
I like that about him, is that he just says like, it's like he has no regard for how something will be received by the public. He just says it, you know, and I like that. At least I like that.
No, he is a likable guy.
He's the weird, crazy, outlandish without the God complex that other people have.
Yeah, that's a good way.
So anyway, so I was talking to Kiwani Lapsaritis. I don't think he likes me at all, by the way. I think he hates my guts because I was like asking too many questions, and he's like, no questions, just go with it. I wasn't rude to him or anything. I didn't make fun of him or anything, but I was like, anyway. So I'll tell you that later. But so he's telling me like that he could show me where to go to have to see a Sasquatch, and I'm like, well, that's wonderful. I definitely want to. If there's anyone that can teach me how to do that, then geez, I'm all ears. And then he's also told me that he could teach me where to go to have a UFO encounter, and I'm like, dude, that's awesome. One lady, according to him, one of his ladies that he was coaching, went out to an area where he told her that she'd be able to see a UFO or a Sasquatch or something. And he wrote this in his book. And it started, and sure enough, she's out there. She doesn't believe anything's going to happen. And sure enough, she sees a huge disc, a huge UFO lifting up out of the trees and leaving. And she thinks, wait, where are you going? Come back. And it stops. As soon as she thinks that, it stops. And it starts coming back towards her. And then she's like, whoa, 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 no, I'm not ready. Oh my gosh, this is scary. And so then it stops again, and then it darts off. That's awesome. Why doesn't that happen to me?
I
Why
can.
does it only happen in his
Do you
book?
really want to see a UFO really bad?
No, I think it'd be.
That's something you're sincere about seeing.
I think it'd be very. Yes, yes. I'm very sincere. I would love to
I'll give you some. I'll give you some guidelines that I think would probably. Like I said, I can't promise you'd see a UFO, but you could probably. I think your chances of seeing one are extremely good. Let's put it that way. I don't think this. Once again, UFOs are not. We've been led to believe like this is some rare occurrence, right? That if you see a UFO, it's once in a lifetime thing, and it's weird. It's really bizarre. The stuff that can hide in plain sight. We are programmed to see what we think we're going to see. What?
No, sorry. You go ahead.
Well, I just think that we're programmed to see stuff. Like, if you look at statistics for accidents, like something like 80 or 90% of the accidents happen within a mile from home. Why? Because you're not paying attention. Because you're programming stuff in. You're not looking to see what's actually there. You're basing it on memory. And we go about right. We don't look at the sky and think we're going to see a UFO because we've been conditioned and programmed to believe that those things are not real. So even when we see one, we don't look at it, or our subconscious blocks it out. I mean, it's I don't know, man. It's really strange, but you can show somebody a UFO and 5 minutes later, they forgot that they saw it.
Well, when I was clearing,
I have seen this a couple times.
When I was clearing wood for the I guess national forest land, when I was clearing deadfall, I would find structures and I'd be like, "That's weird," and I'd cut it down with the chainsaw.
And move on with your day.
Remove it and move on and forget about it. So it's not like I would literally forget about it, but it's like after you take a test, you forget everything that you just studied for. So we just let it go because we don't think it's important.
And we let crazy stuff go even more. Stuff that challenges our paradigm or freaks us out, or we don't have a box to put it in. You talked about a box.
Yes.
That is so important, man. You see a UFO, and even though I've seen a bunch of them, every time I see one, I'm in this kind of
like disbelief.
It's a weird. I don't know if you call it disbelief. I don't know what you call it, but it's like you're trying to take something that you see, and you're trying to put it into a box, and there's no box there.
Yeah, yeah.
It really messes with your head, and a lot of people don't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely. Here's what I was going to say. I want to be abducted. I want them to fix my allergies. Like I want them to. They do these things for people with their hyper advanced technology. According to what some people.
All right, I'm going to share something. I'll share something with you. This is a crazy. Okay.
I knew it'd be fun.
I think I kind of talked about this a little bit, but
go ahead.
When we started encountering the Bigfoots, and I had put the two of them together and realized the Bigfoot was connected to the UFOs, and I started actually trying to make a mental connection by meditating before we go up into the mountains.
Okay.
Well, I had talked to Kwani, and he had suggested meditation, so that it was on his advice that I was doing this meditation.
Okay.
And I thought that I made contact. I actually felt like that I had, Groot, the big guy, the guy that said his name. The reason I think they're plants, right?
Okay.
I asked him if he would have the star people, if he would communicate with the UFOs, if they would work on Kathy, because she was having some tendon problems, and she's also got the early stages of glaucoma, which deteriorates your optic nerve. So she goes in and gets it tested, and they know what her optic nerve is like. Well, I didn't tell her this. And we go up on the mountain, and then she has this very powerful dream that's not really a dream, and actually parts of it she was like awake, and they're working on her brain, and there's this rotating light, and I mean, you could hear it from her, but basically she had this encounter. And so I tell her what I did, and then subsequently she goes back to the eye doctor, and she doesn't tell the eye doctor that she's involved with aliens and Bigfoot. Kind of like that Stan guy, right? Getting his leg kicked.
Just joking. I just said, why not? Why not?
She didn't mention that. But when they tested her optic nerve, the guy was like shocked. He's like, well, this can't be right. And he he's comparing the new results with the old results. And he's like, well, he couldn't make sense of the fact that her optic nerve had regenerated a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it had gotten better.
Yeah.
Like, it's not supposed to get better. That's not supposed to be something that's possible.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of reports of people connecting healing with both UFOs and the Sasquatch people. So, it gives me the impression. I've always got the impression. That's another thing. People want to know why I'm not like terrified when I go into the forest, because I don't think they're out to hurt us. I think they're healers.
Okay, so here's the thing. We gotta wrap this up, but we'll talk about this.
It's been a fascinating chat, Rio.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is what I have observed. I'm a student of history. I love history. Okay, world history, U.S. history, Native American history, South American history. I love history. What I have observed is that the more advanced a nation or a group of people gets, the more advanced a group becomes technologically, the more advanced they become socially. All right? So in other words, if you're going to have a society that has democracy, a democratic social democracy or a social democratic republic like we have, then you're probably not going to have a group that's running around sacrificing children. Okay? So if you're going to have a political advancement, you're probably going to have social advancements too. If you're going to have a group that can perform laser eye surgery, you're probably not going to have a group that is beating women and not allowing them to drive. You know what I'm saying? So right. If you're advancing in one way, you're advancing in another way. So where am I going with this? If you have an alien race, the Greys, that are supposedly evil and benevolent, and they do all these horrible things to people. If you have an alien race that's advanced enough to master gravitational forces, to cross the galaxy, the universe, and fold space-time, whatever they do, control, like you're kind of saying, control kind of time in a sense, and do all sorts of crazy things that are beyond our abilities to even dream about right now scientifically. If you have an alien race that is doing this, and you're telling me they're evil and they torture people, that to me, I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
Well, I can't believe it because look at the Nazis. They were pretty advanced. They almost took over the planet.
But they were pretty advanced, but they weren't that
advanced. How do you determine what is evil? I agree with you. I get where you're going with this. So you're basically saying if a society is advanced, they're probably going to be empathetic and they're probably going to be not evil. They'll probably be kind.
They're going to be socially advanced, which inevitably is kindness. It is kindness. It's just it seems to be universal.
But look how advanced the Klingons are and the Borg.
Exactly. look at us. Look at Professor Snape.
No, you got a good point though.
I mean, it's true, dude. Like, it is true. Look, the Nazis were advanced. They were the most advanced country for a short time, right? Through history. But they were not even beyond racism. They weren't even beyond major political and social racism. And you can't get very far. There's just only a certain amount of progress you can make before the other categories, the other areas in society have to advance as well. And so I just don't see this disgusting, depraved alien race raping and torturing and killing children, and I don't see that. I can't.
Actually, this argument, this position that you're putting forth, is kind of an argument for the idea that Sasquatch would be a highly advanced race, because if Sasquatch was just an ape man running around in the forest and didn't have any rules or regulations, you would expect to have a lot more aggressive stories. Yeah. You'd expect to have a lot more people go missing.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't know. I'm pretty sure you and I agree with the experiences we've had in the forest that these things are not the aggressive killers that at least not towards people. That some people weave that story. They want to put forth that idea that these things are abducting people, killing people, and I think
Sasquatch to be a monster because
I think the opposite.
People want Sasquatch to be a monster because it's easier to understand. It seems animalistic and it seems consistent with other animals. It seems consistent with Hollywood. It seems consistent with beliefs they already have about good and evil.
Right.
The truth is, you are more likely to be killed by a manatee than by a Sasquatch. That's just the truth.
Why did you pick manatee?
Because you actually can be killed by a manatee. You actually can.
Well, I suppose if one jumps up and lands on the boat and squishes you, you can.
No, you can go swim with manatees in Florida.
Oh, you mean stingrays?
No, manatees. Manatees.
The really big ones.
Yes, the sea cows.
Oh,
And
dugongs.
they can actually be playful and drown you.
Oh, manatees. I'm confusing. I'm sorry. I was thinking of manta rays.
No, manatees.
No, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the mammal, the sea cow.
Yeah, the big old.
Yeah. They hug people and drown them, don't they?
They can be overly affectionate or overly playful, and it's really rare, but it can happen where they can drown people. So you have a bigger chance of being killed by a manatee than a Sasquatch. It's just the truth. Sasquatch has to be, statistically, it has to be peaceful. It has to be or not peaceful. Peaceful is not the right word, but passive. It has to be a passive animal.
David Paulides would disagree with you.
David Paulides?
Paulides, yeah, the 411.
No, I don't think he would, actually. I don't think David
Paulides was the idea that the Sasquatch was abducting people. You don't think so?
David Paulides won't say that it's the Sasquatch that are responsible for the abductions. Obviously, he hints sometimes that it was probably a Sasquatch. He won't come out and say it. I think he knows better. I think he knows better. He believes that they're part human. He believes what the Native Americans say about Sasquatch. And I believe that Sasquatch obviously are capable of much violence, and they have killed people and abducted people.
You do think that?
I do think that. I do believe that because that's what the Indians say. I believe the natives. I give a lot of credence to Native Americans, and I have had Sasquatch be very aggressive with me. So they have an aggressive side. Obviously, any living creature that's sentient, that's a higher intelligence and sentient, is going to have aggressive parts of their personality. You're an idiot if you don't think that's true. But are they violent monsters that are sinister and lurking in the woods and working for Satan because they have some weird tie to the Bible? I think that's so stupid and simplistic to think that. I think it's ridiculous.
I think they're even more peaceful than what you're. I'm not even convinced that they've ever hurt anybody, but maybe you're right.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, Keowani Lapsaritis says that a Sasquatch has never hurt somebody. They're completely benevolent, and that other creatures that are also cryptids are responsible for the abductions and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we don't know.
That's another whole discussion, Dogman.
It is. It's a whole discussion. Anyway, dude, it's been fun. It's always fun to talk.
Awesome.
To you.
Awesome, Rio.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and end it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're down to 21 viewers. All right. I'll see you later, man.
See ya.
Okay, bye.